Good afternoon. I'm going to be doing my presentation on Catherine Skittles Walters. When I can get the PowerPoint to move for me. There we go. All right. So, Mrs. Walters was born June 13th, 1839, in a place called Toxteth, Liverpool. Now, she was the third child out of 5. Unfortunately, her mother died in childbirth. I'm assuming with the 5th child, obviously, because there was 5 of them. And then her father, he was a customs official. Now, Catherine, she was a very little lady. She used to work in her teenage years at the horse stables, where she learned how to ride horses very well. And it's said that she outrode most men. She also worked at what we call bowling alleys nowadays. Back in her time, the game was called, instead of bowling, it was Skittles. So that's how she acquired the name Skittles. At around 15 or 16, she got with what would be her first suitor and moved to London. Now, this gentleman and her messed around for a few years, and when he got tired of her, he gave her 2,000 euros as a parting gift and started giving her 300 euros a year for expenses, if you will. So, when she was done with him, or when he was done with her, however you want to look at it, she started breaking horses down in this place called Rotten Row in Hyde Park. Now, with this, because she had this experience when she was younger, she started drawing a huge crowd to see her breaking these horses. And at the same time, she wore these really tight-fitting clothes. And said huge crowd consisted of men and women of both. The men lusted over Skittles. The women envied Skittles. But at the same time they envied her, they also admired her and started dressing like her. So they were jocking her style, if you will. Pun intended. She also went by other aliases outside of Skittles. Now, it's not known if she ever got married. There's no proof that she ever got married. But she went by, as you can see, Mrs. Brands and also Mrs. Bellany. Her second suitor is this gentleman called Spencer Cavendish. Now, it took me some research because he had a lot of titles. But apparently, he was the eighth Duke of Devonshire, and also that name kind of translates and is along the same lines as the where's it at? The Marquis of Harrington. That's the family name. So he was a Marquis of Harrington also. So in his dukehood, he was part of 3 political parties. He was part of the Liberal Party, the Liberal Unionist Party, and also the Conservative Party. Now, they had a 4 or 5 year relationship, but he gave her money, just like the first gentleman, for the rest of his life. And his family appreciated her not telling, we can say. And after he died, they continued giving her money. Now, this gentleman, Archie Fowl, he was a French financier and politician. Now, he stayed in office for a long time, and he was under likes like King Edward III, Napoleon the Third. The funny thing about this gentleman is, or the funny thing about him and Skittles is, around the same time she was messing with him, she was also messing with Napoleon the Third. So that's pretty cool. Now, Mr. Blunt. This is an interesting cat right here. He's a poet, so we knew he's a little eclectic. And he was obsessed with Skittles. Obsessed with her. By the time they were messing around, he was set to be married to a princess in France. Now, her father, being the ambassador of France, is, I think, how that works out. He found out about Mr. Blunt and Miss Walter's little escapades, if you will, and kicked him off his little spot he had, and also sent him back to England. Now, like I said, Mr. Blunt was obsessed with Catherine. And even in the later years, I want to say it was like 30, 35 years later, he wrote a poem about Catherine. So, as you can see, this is all the other suitors that she was said to have. Lord Fitzwilliams, that was the first one, like I said, moved over to London. Then got Napoleon, Edward. The gentleman at the bottom, Gerald. I don't know if you see his last name, but Gerald, he's an interesting cat. He was way younger than Catherine, and she met him in her older years. We'll touch on him a little bit later. So, some of the rumors she had going on was she rode her horses with nothing underneath her tight-fitting clothes. That's an interesting rumor. Another rumor, as you can see down here in the bottom corner, was this painting was supposedly of her. And this went on for years. Everybody was thinking this was her. But come to find out, it wasn't her actually. It was this other lady named Mrs. Gilbert that this painting was of. But she favored Catherine in so many ways, everybody thought it was Catherine. Now, she amassed a mighty estate over her years of living. It was said she had this house here. She also was said to have 2 hotels, one that was in France. And that makes sense because she had a lot of business in France. Also, she accumulated a good amount of money. Now, I don't know how to separate all these euros from the S's and the dinars, whatever the D's are. So I did a little Googling and converted it. At the time of her death, she had approximately 245,000 euros. This is pretty cool. Now, like I said, that gentleman Gerald that she met in her later years, he's important because when she died, she left her entire estate to this gentleman. So he's really the only one besides the poet that we can actually lock in and say they were definite suitors of hers. So she ended up dying August 5th, 1920. And the strange thing about it is, it was said she was recluse in her later years because she had a bad stint with arthritis. But this ain't what killed her. What got her was she had cerebral hemorrhaging, and that's what ultimately took her life. So her body's buried in his monastery in West Sussex. Like I said, nice and clear, works-cited page. And it was an interesting piece to work on. I liked it, like I told you in the little interview we had, little conference call, that reading about her, she reminded me of that song that Reba McEntire made, Fancy. Now, obviously different times, but I can just tell the only real difference is between these two ladies is the mom didn't push her into doing the prostitution. She kind of just did it on her own. So that was pretty cool, and I enjoyed it. So thank you for watching, and have a good day.